Hey guys, I'm back with another Genshin Impact video. Today we're going to be going about team building and the free-to-play guide of how to team build for you guys. I know I'm a little bit late, but I played from the global release, so I want to make sure that I get all the information correct for you instead of rushing out videos to you guys as soon as possible to milk that algorithm, because I still want to give you guys great, comprehensive content, and I'm not very good at that on the fly. But anyway, let's jump straight into it. So the first thing you need to get familiar with team building as a free-to-play player and also a pay-to-win player is these elemental resonances at the top right of party. So as you can see, I'm running a double fire, which gives you a 25% attack bonus, and you are affected by cryo 40% less of the time. However, you should also be familiar with everything else. Fire is definitely what I recommend for most scenarios. Double wind is really good. The double water is kind of underwhelming at the moment. Maybe they'll change that up and buff that a little bit. High voltage is also pretty decent as well. Double ice is very good. Double geo is good, and this is neutral because you have one of everything. But however, the double benefit of running double of a certain stat, and you can also double it up, so you can have double fire, double water, double fire, double anything. So and get both of these. That is added a bonus, so you get double of these really strong effects compared to having one of 4 unique elements. And one last thing that double elements allows you to do is your energy consumption or energy management is a little bit easier. So as you play throughout the game, you have this OD, which is under your Q. If you have 2 of the same units with the same elements, they'll gain the fire energy together, meaning your energy will be easier to get about, so you can get your ulti very quickly if you're running 2 of the same typing. So that's another benefit of that, so get used to that, and these can give your team a very good delicious boost. Alright, the next thing you have to get familiar with is also these elemental reactions, and also what's good against what element. So for example, you can ignore the green one at the moment because there's no characters running plant-based reaction apart from things in the open world. So basically, fire is very good against electric and vice versa. As you can see, these 2 arrows goes through. However, fire is very effective to ice. Ice is really effective to water, and water is really effective against the fire. So, for example, and electric is good against everything apart from Geo and Amino, which is neutral to everything else. So, if for example, for me, I drew a Bennett. So what I have is fire. It's really effective against ice, and it's really good against electric. But I have some problem with the water typing. So what I can run with the fire is electric, or I can run it with ice, and that'll clear out my water problems. You'll have problems with water bosses if you don't follow this. So make sure you guys know what your main element, your main DPS is good against and what is not good against, and build your team accordingly to have make sure it fills up the holes, and you have good coverage all the time. And lastly is the elemental reactions. So as you can see, there's swell stuff. You can do swell, which is the amino air, and that reacts to basically every single element. And and the same with Geo. It turns into crystallize, and it can react with everything. And this basically gives you a shield and reduces incoming elements. This one does damage. That's the typing of it. And then we have this omega big spiral wheel. We have ice mixed with electric, which is superconduct. This lowers physical defense, and this can go either way, okay guys? So you can start with ice and go into electric, or electric and then go into ice, and it'll still give you this superconduct. This is true for everything, or all the other elements too. Electric and water gives you electro charge, which is a dot damage. Overload is explosion, so it just basically just is a big crit when you have an electric applied and you do a fire attack. And then it's the same way for vaporize. This goes both ways as well for vaporize and fire. However, water going into fire does 2x damage, and fire going to water does 1.5x damage. So you do slightly less damage, but it's still a damage amp, depending on which way you do it. This is the opposite for ice to fire. Ice to fire does 1.5 damage, and fire to ice is 2x damage. So it's basically the same as overload, but just a little bit of a nuance, because water does take out fire, and fire also takes out water, but less effectively. And this is the same case with ice and fire. Fire will melt ice. Ice can deal with fire, but it's not as effective, right? And then we have frozen and shatter. It goes the same way. It goes both ways. If you apply water to freeze, it freezes, and freeze to water, it freezes. It doesn't do anything special. This freezes the opponent, and it's basically a CC stun. However, if you have the elemental resonance with double ice, this frozen targets will have a higher crit chance. You can crit them higher, and then you can shatter them for big damage with a claymore. So that's basically the two main things you need to know about everything, and then I'll go into the big team building video right now. The next thing you need to know how to build around your team is basically you need to know what you pull. So because of my omega great luck, bad luck, I didn't pull anything good. I'm free to play as well, so I don't have that many pulls as well. So I'm locked with these characters. Let's ignore the Chungyun because I just pulled out quite recently. So I was basically playing with Noelle, Fischl, Bennett, Xiangling, Barbara, because you're giving Barbara and Xiangling and Noelle, and the basic characters. However, the basic characters are omega boring, so why would you ever play around that? So what I did, I pulled Bennett first. He was going to be my main damage dealer. You get this at AR 20 or when you unlock Spiral Abyss. So I only have Bennett, guys. So this guy had to be my main DPS because I think he does good damage. And you can check how they do damage is by checking the wiki, or just going by the talents and just seeing, wow, this multiplier is pretty good for a left click. So your main damage dealer needs to do a lot of damage. These are good multipliers for one-handed sword. And also they also have to have a really spammable E. For example, Passion Overload has a 5-second cooldown, and it gets better when he gets Ascension up. So he does a lot of left click damage, and you can weave in quickly with his E. So this is definitely my main damage dealer. You need to be able to assess who is your main damage dealer and pull in all your resources to that one damage dealer. And then as I started playing with Bennett, if you see my other video before about showcasing you how strong Bennett actually is, he can actually do so much. He can work as your DPS, your healer, and I am actually not sad of building him at all, because he can, in the late game, he can transition to a great support because of his fantastic voyage ultimate, which is really has a low downtime and has a small energy cost, and it amps people's damage by 70% at level 4. That's ridiculous. At level 1 it's 50%, which is still pretty good. That's like a lot of extra damage, plus the elemental resonance with fire, you get basically 75% at level 1. So that's a lot of extra damage, and just right clicking and everything. So this will help you get through your game very, very quickly, having a fire type. So I pulled Bennett and I just made use of it. Make sure you read what they do, and then plan accordingly to how it does. So because Bennett is such a great character, you don't really need a healer, but so I opted for a Fischl because I pulled Fischl, right? It's really good for the elemental reaction of Overload. It's basically you just get big damage. It's basically double damage every time it procs, and because of how short the cooldown is on Bennett's E, you can keep on proccing Overload and it'll be double damage. In the beginning I had Kaya for my water matchups, as I had not very good water matchups, so I had to freeze them. So I had Fischl and Kaya for my water matchups, and then lastly, when I lastly, when I got Xiangling, I just stuck her in. Before I was using Amino character, because Xiangling will give me the fire buff and the extra DPS that I need to be able to clear content. Basically, guys, this whole game is about DPS. Whatever you do, just put a lot of DPS and you cannot go wrong. But yeah, that's basically how to build your team. You just work with what you got basically, and you know, read what they do and try to synergize it, and just think yourself like, wow, how do, with all the elemental reactions and also the triangle of what's good against each element, you just kind of fit everything in, and yeah, it's pretty simple from there. But basically you build around this main DPS. There are certain roles in team building. So there's main DPS, there's support, and there's a healer. I opted for no healer because you don't need it for the quest if you have like a self-sustaining healer such as Bennett or shut up Noelle, and yeah, I really recommend you building Noelle because I started building Noelle and she can solo. More on that on the next video though. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment and subscribe, and see you on the next one.